Hello, Julie here and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be creating an art journal page. This is the page and I hope you enjoy watching the video. I'm going to use my self-made art journal for this. I've used 4 jump rings and I've cut my watercolour paper to 8 3/4 inches by 8 1/4 inches. I've used a corner rounder on it and then I've punched 4 holes down the side to let me attach it to the rings to make my journal. I'm just having a quick flip through here. You can see I write the instructions of what I've used on the back of each page because I usually forget what I've done if I come back to it at a later date. I have given the page a coat of gesso. I decided to use these silks. I've had them for a long time. They're in acrylic glaze. I have sunflower, raspberry wine, snapdragon and Guatemalan green. I don't actually end up using the Guatemalan green in here, but I'm going to have these for my background. I'm going to use a brush to apply them randomly on the background and blend them together. Once I'd applied my colour with my brush, I decided that I wanted to have a bit more control over the smoothness and the texture of the page, so I used my finger to apply some more colour. I wanted a deeper colour as well, so I'm blending and deepening the colour just with my finger. I must admit that it was very hard to get that colour off of my finger. It stayed on there I think for a couple of days, but it did the job I wanted and I was very happy with the end result. These silks, I have had them for, I would say, probably at least 5 years in my stash, so I'm very happy to be using them. They were actually a bit dry and I had to add a bit of water to them to try and thin them down a little. I wanted to add a bit more interest to the background, so I used the Kazzaz Life's Moments background stamp and my Stays On jet black ink to just stamp randomly. I wanted to add some white splatters to the background, so I'm using 13 Arts Aida ink in white. I tried using it full strength and it was too blobby, so I have watered it down and used my fan brush to make the splatters so they're smaller. Now I'm going to start work on my focal point. I'm going to use Heartfelt Creations Daisy Patch Flowers stamp, and I have stamped it on some white paper to use as a mask each size. First I'm going to stamp using my Stays On jet black ink, and then I'm going to position a mask over the flower that I've just stamped and stamp the next flower. I'm going to repeat this procedure using different size flowers and different masks until I have a pattern of flowers going sort of in a diagonal from the bottom left of my page to the top right. I have sped the video up while I was doing this, but I think you can still sort of see the procedure that I took to create these flowers. If you have any questions about this way of stamping, well, please leave a question in the comments and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. My plan now is to dull down the background and thereby making the flowers stand out because they'll be a lot brighter than the background. The gesso that I'm applying here with the brush doesn't completely cover or completely blank out the colour in the background. It actually sort of draws it up a little bit, but it does dull it down, so you will end up with some coloured in the background, but it will definitely be a lot duller than the actual flowers themselves. I use a variety of brush sizes to do this, and it is a very tedious process because I have to get in between each and every one of those flower petals. So I'm not going to make you watch that. I'm going to do that off camera and get back to you when it's done. So here it is all completed. Now that that's dry, I'm going to take a couple of permanent markers. I've got this Art Studio permanent marker, 0.4mm, and I've got a Sharpie ultra fine point permanent marker. Now they're both permanent markers because I don't know what else I'm going to do on this page at this stage, and I want them to be waterproof. So I'm using those to go around each flower and detail some depth, giving the outline of the flower more depth, and I'm giving the detail of the flower a light covering with the black ink as well so that it stands out. This was another long job, so I won't be letting you watch the whole thing. I will do most of this off camera and come back to you when it's complete. So you can see there how much more defined the flowers are now that they have that black detailing to them. I'm going to work on the centres of the flowers now, and I'm going to use that Aida ink in the white once again. I'm just going to put a little bit in this palette, then I'm going to use a stylus to just create dots in the centres of the flowers. So once again I did most of this off camera, and we'll come back and show you what it looks like once it's finished. I wanted to add a bit more interest to the centre of the flowers, so I decided to come back with the silk in the sunflower and add a few of those dots in there as well, not as heavily as the white ones, but just in there so that it had a bit more colour. I have this fine liner with some watered down black acrylic paint in it. I'm going to use that to create a border around my page. I'm just putting a squibbly line. The acrylic paint, when it dries, actually has a bit of gloss to it, and it also has a bit of texture to it, so it actually makes a very nice border. While I've got that in my hand and I can't stop, I decide to put some black dots in the centres of the flowers as well. For the sentiment on this page, I went onto the internet and I found this saying where it says, "There are always flowers for those who want to see them," by Henry Matisse. So I printed that on my through my computer and cut it into strips. I'm going to attach that to my page using Matisse gel medium. This is a matte gel medium, and if you're going to do this, I would give you a little tip that be careful, because the gesso moves underneath it when you are attaching your greeting. I did find that I had to go back with the gesso and paint around the edge of those greeting strips. I then used my watered down acrylic paint in my fine liner to just detail around those script boxes. That finished my page for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and share my video with your friends. Once again, thank you for spending your time here on my YouTube channel with me today.